If you thought free agency was going to be crazy, just wait until the draft because we got some big draft news from a specific player that wants to be a Philadelphia Eagle that will not be participating in the combine this weekend, especially on Friday with the defensive lineman. We have a lot of news regarding a couple of guys in the draft, news on Vic Fangio, news on JAHAN Dotson, and it looks like another offseason year where teams are going to be trying to ban the tush push. And is it going to go through? We're about to find out, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff here. Might be a long video, so stay intact, and we're going to get through all this. Let's get into it.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. This video is sponsored by BetUS, so definitely go check them out if you guys have not. Guys, sky is the limit for the Eagles offseason. You would think after a Super Bowl, you lose 20-something free agents and you go through all this stuff, and trust me, there's only a few moves that you have to make, and I think the cap space is going to look really good. Financially, they should look really good. And it really depends on that 32nd pick that I think it's really a second-round pick at this point, okay? I've already had the Eagles kind of going into this offseason saying, you know what? They're going to make one big splash. It will be a trade for Myles Garrett, Crosby, something like that. If they were able to get rid of that pick, okay, I am perfectly fine with that. If they sat back and did nothing, kept what they had in Jalix Hunt producing really well, if they want to bring Graham back, excited about Nolan Smith next season, and they just went into this draft, I'd be perfectly fine with that because the Eagles are fine regardless, even losing Josh Sweat, even losing Milton Williams with Moro Jomo and having Thomas Booker there, guys that are starting to really make some noise and could be adding to that in this draft. We're talking about, obviously, Abdul Carter, the top edge rusher in this draft from Penn State. Okay. And let me tell you something. If the Eagles were able to do this and get this done, well, first let's talk about why this could happen now. Okay. Now, it looks like from some of the reports that are coming out from ESPN, Ian Rappaport, that Abdul Carter Jr. will not be participating, okay, in the combine, okay, because of a shoulder injury from the semifinal game against against Notre Dame. Okay. He will be available for his pro day to work out. His pro day will be his last stint to get a lot of eyes on him, but he will do interviews this weekend. Friday, it's defensive line, so very important weekend for the scout team for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I know that Abdul Carter Jr. has jokingly said, like, I should just bomb my combine just so I can get picked by the Eagles. He wants to be a Philadelphia Eagle. I think we all know this. Okay. I mean, you even saw Jalen Carter, Abdul Carter Jr.'s, post Super Bowl holding the trophy together. You know, Abdul Carter Jr. wants to be here that badly. Okay. And don't say, and like, I understand, guys, people are going to say, this is going to be impossible. Joe, you're smoking. What are you doing? Realistically, guys, even last year's draft, nobody knows who's going to pick who. Okay. Last year's draft, you had 14 players, offensive players taken off the board. Okay. 14 players and no quarterbacks taken off the board. And then you pretty much sit there and you got the two guys you wanted. You got two first-round talents. You got obviously Quinyon Mitchell, and then that early second round you trade up in front of Green Bay because they were going to snag him. And you got, obviously, I think the biggest steal of the draft, one of the biggest steals of the draft in Cooper DeJean. Okay, so anything is really possible. These teams in front of us at 32, if the Eagles still have this pick by the time draft day is here, they better hope to not make a mistake because the Eagles are sitting in the back, but you never know what could happen. They could move up 5, 10 spots. I understand that this should be a top 5 pick. Pass rushers go off the board easily. Okay, easily. So does this hurt his stock a little bit? Sure, it definitely does, but I think we know the talent that's there. Look what happened with Jalen Carter with the off-the-field issues, and I thought, maybe he would have been drafted at 6 when it came to Seattle or something like that. The Bears were on the clock at 9, and The Eagles traded up one spot from 10 to 9. We ended up with Jalen Carter in our pockets, laid in our hands, and look what he's turned out to be with the supporting cast around him. I have no problem taking guys that have off the field issues or anything like that. And if the Abdul Carter doesn't get you excited, this is a deep edge, an edge class right now. Okay. I mean, you got James Pierce Jr. that's sitting there as well. And I think this would be another great pick for the Philadelphia Eagles going forward. Another guy right now that could be moving down the draft boards because he has off the field issues. Another player that can land right into the Philadelphia Eagles' hands for free, for nothing. I'm not saying the Eagles don't have to move up. I'm not saying it's going to be impossible. And guys, like, things happen. When it comes to Howie Roseman, things happen. The Eagles have picks for next year in 26. The Eagles have 3 third-round picks going into 26. So you never know what other type of picks they could trade up. And I understand they're not going to trade from 32 to 10 or something like that. Let's be realistic here. A lot of teams aren't going to let the Eagles just trade up, 20 spots, and let the Eagles get a freebie at a top player this year. But like I said, you never know what could happen in these drafts when you have guys like James Pierce Jr., Abdul Carter, and some of these other guys, because it's a very deep edge rush class, and that 32nd pick might be worth it if they don't give it up for an edge rusher for Myles Garrett or something like that, and they're sitting there. They might change their minds how that draft board is moving a little bit. He might do a trade up. Might not be a far trade up, but someone is going to come down that board. Someone is going to. There are teams that care about the metrics. They care too much about, the off-field stuff. And obviously the Eagles always do a lot of homework when it comes to the off-field issues and what's going on with these specific players. And I think there's 2 here that could fall into the Eagles' lap. Maybe not as much as Abdul Carter, but you could move up, and you never know how the draft board is going to fall. I think you always got to keep faith in that because the draft boards are always wrong every single year. Always. Probably won't happen what happened like last year in 24, but I think things could change a lot, and you never know what could happen at that point. So that's some big news coming out as of right now. And the Eagles love to take guys that always want those second chances to be with a team with a good support system. And Abdul Carter Jr., he's thinking on draft day, I want to be in that midnight green. I want to wear that Kelly green for the first time. I want to be here. So we're going to find out what happens as the news goes on. But Abdul Carter we'll be watching very close on the interviews, what's being said. It's going to be a very exciting time when all this is going down. If you guys haven't checked out the Philly Shakedown podcast merch, definitely check it out. We have a small bundle of the Champions full high-sprung polyester shirts. They don't crack, they don't fade. Fabric is beautiful, beautiful shirt. Definitely go check it out if you guys haven't. Link in the description. And check out the Main Thing t-shirt as well. This has been a really big seller of ours. The iconic moment in the hallway right after the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts, the cigar, the MVP, and the smoke. It's a fantastic shirt. The Main Thing shirt. I hope you guys definitely go check it out. Link in the description for all that great stuff. So we thank you so much for everybody that's ordered or checked it out. Thank you so much. Now, I want to go into Jahan Dotson, okay, because we really haven't talked about this. Now, Jahan Dotson is on contract for another year with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's only going to cost like $3.5 million, which is good. It's cheap, but it's worth it just to rent him for another year. Jahan Dotson, I didn't know what to really expect. When we made the trade, we gave up a 3rd-round pick, a 7th-round pick to Washington. And from Dan Quinn's eyes, he wasn't even the 2nd receiver. He wasn't the 3rd receiver coming out of training camp. I mean, we were hearing reports that, Jahan was very entitled, that he should have started, and all this self-entitlement and is he a bad player now? Is he not, what's the issue here? But this trade happened very late, right before the season started. So I didn't expect too much production, but he was pretty quiet. They really didn't use him for nothing. It's the same as Saquon being a decoy in that backfield where defenses are going to sell out for Saquon. And I think this is the same thing. In that Super Bowl, I think is the perfect example of that. Okay. Jahan Dotson being on the outside is huge value because he's a 1st-round talent. I didn't know if he was good, bad, even all this year. I'm like, Is he not what the Eagles hope they traded for? Or, he's the number 3 receiver, so he's the redheaded stepchild. Wide receiver 3s come here to die pretty much because they really the Eagles got too many weapons. Quez Watkins, you couldn't really depend on him in those big moments. Alamde Zaccheaus I actually really liked, but is he really better than Jahan Dotson? No, I don't think so. So I think Washington totally lost that trade. Totally lost that trade. That catch in the Super Bowl, that 27-yarder up the right sideline. This is what happens here. Like I said, Saquon sells out. Defenses sell out for Saquon. And defenses, what you can do offensively with A.J. Brown, with Jahan Dotson on the outside, you can always put A.J. Brown in the slot. You could put Devontae Smith in the slot because now, like, they still got to focus on Jahan Dotson. He's still a great player. The way he burned that guy on the outside, that's the player I know he is. We just don't see it a lot because, unfortunately, these wide receiver 3s, he doesn't have a lot of pressure on him. He's a wide receiver 3 here, no pressure, and there's only so many guys we can give the ball to. Jahan Dotson, I think, is a great, even if he's not getting a lot of targets, he's still a decoy out there. He has to be respected when he's lining up. So your receivers can move all over the place. You grab a Quez Watkins on the outside. What do they really respect that much? Maybe his speed a little bit, but not that much. I think this is the best wide receiver 3 we've had. His stats don't shine out too much, but as a decoy being on the field on the outside where you could put a receiver on the inside is great. Saquon Barkley, he could be a decoy, and then, defenses are going to challenge Jalen Hurts and his arm to beat teams' defenses with his arm. And guess what? He can do that, and we just saw it again in the Super Bowl. Jahan Dotson had 2 really good catches, and he had a touchdown against the Green Bay Packers. So it was nice that I'm happy for him that he was involved. And I really hope the Eagles don't get rid of him. I mean, his price tag is nothing. I mean, it's cheap nothing, and he's definitely worth the $3.5 million. So relatively really cheap for 1 more year. And then the Eagles will have to make a decision whether they want to get rid of him or not. You know what I mean? To maybe lock him up for another year or 2. How much money is he really going to get? We'll see how next year goes. But realistically, it can't be that expensive. But this is a former first round pick. He's a first round talent on the field. I don't know why Washington slandered him so much, but let me tell you, this guy's embracing every moment as a Philadelphia Eagle. And I'm sorry, I'm just ranting about it, but I think the Eagles won this trade by a long shot. I really do. I think they won it by a mile, not just because of the Super Bowl, just because I think he's got more value here than he would have value at Washington. I guess they didn't see it. I don't know. Dan Quinn being Dan Quinn, I guess that's what it is. Now, a couple more things to go over. This was actually a real funny one to me because Vic Fangio, literally they're doing parade preparation. Obviously before the parade, you do preparation where they're going, what the schedule, what's going on. Literally, Vic Fangio took the defensive players. This is after the Super Bowl. We're talking about prepping for a parade in a meeting. Okay, everybody left the building except the defensive players. He took all the defensive players, brought them to the back of the room, and went over tape from the Super Bowl of those 2 touchdowns they gave up, the 3 or whatever, the 2 that they gave up late in the game. This is the type of defensive coordinator we have. So it says, Jalen Sun says, even after the Super Bowl, after the team meeting going over parade prep, Vic Fangio made the defense stay back after and go over the game. Quote unquote, he gets to the second half and he says, this is unacceptable. Unacceptable. 22 points. He wants perfection. I'm telling you, dude, Vic Fangio hasn't. The last time Vic Fangio was in a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator was 2012 with the 49ers. That was the last time, but with a good GM behind his back that puts the players in the right position to win football games. And obviously Vic tinkers with his eye on, what players he sees as superstars. And obviously we've turned a few into superstars already in this defense. And that's why it's so exciting to have a DC long-term in Philadelphia, okay, where he has roots in Philadelphia. That's even a better thing. Okay, that knows every layer of this defense year in and year out, and you don't have a new guy coming in starting to change things and messing with, the culture aspect. And Fangio has been nothing but perfection here. And if that's what he guarantees, I like it. We needed an asshole coach. We needed a coach with direction. These guys going into this 24 season, they needed direction, but not putting you in a position to fail. And I think that's what was missing in that 23 season. Just a lot of bad things in that 23 season, especially at the end of it, especially defensively was the worst. Um, so I like how this whole thing came together, and Vic Fangio still they win a Super Bowl and still he's going over tape I want perfection, 22 point. I mean, yeah, realistically they should have just gave up the 6 and they gave up 2 easy ones. Yeah, but I know they obviously took out a lot of starters later on, so it is what it is. They got garbage stats at the end of that game. So in my eyes, they only held him to 6 points realistically in that game. So Vic Fangio's still a stud. Love his coaching. I want to see a mic'd up of Vic Fangio and how he really coaches. I want to see that behind the scenes. I don't know why, but I always want to see that, how he really is. We only see him at his press conferences when he's really calm, but I want to see him when he's just at his breaking point. I've always wanted to see that. So the last thing on the list for today is obviously the Tush push. Yes, the GMs and the ownerships will be meeting at the meeting in Florida. I think it's Florida. I forgot where they have the meetings, whether to ban certain things, change NFL rules, things like that. And yet again, the Tush push is banned, or sorry, the Tush push is obviously being talked about for another year of trying to ban it. Okay. We know that teams can't do it. Every team that tries to do it, they think that the Eagles have a huge advantage. And if the Eagles have a huge advantage, then why doesn't other teams just do it at this point and just be successful with it? Obviously, the Eagles have the biggest offensive line in the league by weight, by height, by everything. Go draft some better offensive linemen if you want to get this thing done. Okay. The teams that are trying to get this done are the Green Bay Packers, I'm hearing. And yes, Lane Johnson was laughing at this because he thinks it's a complete joke. So the Green Bay Packers is one team. The Washington Commanders is another team. Oh, poor Commanders. They can't take the tush push either. Oh, man. Feel so bad for them. So that's been the news. Obviously, I don't really care about the other rules. The hip drop tackle was a waste. There's some rules that weren't even accounted for this year. The refereeing gets worse every year regardless. But the tush push, we're going to find out if this thing actually gets banned. And honestly, if it does, I don't care. You know why? Because the Eagles are going to find a way around it. They will find a way around this whole entire thing. Okay. Trust me, they can quarterback sneak it and they'll still have success. To me, it wouldn't even matter. They would find a loophole around this play in another way possible. Trust me. If you think that, trust me, it probably will happen. But the ban, we'll see what happens. I don't care about it. I'm just kind of just letting you guys know it's being talked about for another off season, and they're probably wasting their time. Probably just wasting their time doing it. So, we'll see how it goes. But let me know what you guys think about Abdul Carter Jr. not participating at the combine, just interviews, him being a Philadelphia Eagle. I know people are going to call me an idiot in the comments section, but these drafts, things happen, weird things happen, and anything can happen. Abdul Carter, James Pierce Jr., someone is going to fall. If the Eagles still have that pick in this draft, it's going to fall. Let me know who you think is going to be there, and do you think this Abdul Carter thing could be realistic for the Philadelphia Eagles? Let me know on all of that, and obviously the tush push van. Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator, have you changed your mind about him as a coordinator from beginning to season till after the Super Bowl? How do you feel about him as a whole going into this 25 offseason program and everything else? Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more Eagles news every single day, and make sure you like the video because it helps the channel out tremendously. Appreciate all the support and all of that. Check the Philly Shakedown podcast merch. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. And we will see you for the combine. We'll be live streaming the combine most likely. So you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes, what up? Follow slide. Peace out, guys. Pace.